Hey, it's me, the Blue Beetle guy. Last week we got word from Deadline that Blue Beetle will be returning to the DCU in the form of an animated series. The series hasn't been officially announced by DC or Warner Brothers yet, but we do know that it has been in the works since around December of last year. As you guys know, I'm a little bit of a fan of Blue Beetle. I think that this is amazing news. Honestly, an animated series is the perfect route forward for the character of Jaime Reyes. I think that in order to fully encapsulate and tell his story in a way that really does him justice, I think an animated series is just kind of the way to go, because as is most comic book characters, considering the medium of monthly releases for comics, there's just more story to be told. So having a series with multiple episodes, especially in an animated format, where you get to really visually explore things you can't really do in live action, it's just really exciting. So I'm super excited. Only a few people have spoken out about the series, including star Jolomar Dueña. I love you, I love you, I love you so much. I'm so proud of you, I'm so happy for you. What the fuck was that? Don't kiss the camera, dude. Okay, I love you, I'm so proud of you. Let's go get tacos to celebrate again. Yeah, no, this is so good. Honestly, this is probably the best outcome we could have hoped for. Animation is quite possibly the best place to take the character of Jaime Reyes after his debut solo film. That'll give him so much more room to be fleshed out as a character. I wanted to make this video as a fan of the character to break down what I want to see in this animated series and continuation of the character of Jaime Reyes in the DCU, and talk about some things that can help temper our expectations, as well as what I'd personally really like to see from the comics I've read of Blue Beetle. Let's just jump into it. As you guys know, I love a lot of what the movie has already done with the character and added on to his mythos. I think Palmera City is a really cool fictional city with a stunning visual identity that gives Metropolis a run for its money when it comes to what you think of when you perceive City of Tomorrow. Like in the current comics, they literally have flying cars. It's dope. So I don't think we'll see flying cars necessarily on the show, but I still think that Palmera City will look gorgeous in animation and is a great setting. I know a lot of people want to see El Paso referenced, as this is Jaime's original hometown, and I think that they could reference the Reyes family potentially originally being from El Paso, but I'd prefer to flesh out Palmera City primarily. I'll try to go through this with as little spoilers as possible, so you guys can get the general gist of what I'm talking about without giving too many details away. Number 1. Ted Kord. The disappearance of Ted Kord, the second Blue Beetle, was an unsolved mystery from the film, with a post-credit scene teasing him for the next chapter of Jaime's story. Now that we know this next chapter is going to be taking place within the animated series, it's not too hard to imagine that Ted will probably be a big plot point of season 1.
Hello? Oh my god, it's working. Okay. Whoever turned on my computer, get a message to my daughter, Jenny Kord. Please, tell her that I love her, and that I'm sorry. And her dad is alive. Ted Kord is alive.
Number 2. The Reach Invasion. I can't keep on doing this. The Reach Invasion is practically the main overarching plotline of Jaime's original 2006 comic run. The Reach are the alien race that created the Scarab, so if they were to go into the origin of Jaime's other half, Kaji Da, I'd expect to see the storyline explored sooner rather than later. It's also my personal theory that Ted has been captured by the Reach after learning about their plans to invade Earth, which might be an obvious guess, but it makes sense to have Ted know about the Reach due to his prior history with Kaji Da, and that Victoria Kord found the Scarab after a fight between Ted and the Reach that ended with Ted losing and being kept a prisoner indefinitely. You can even recreate the iconic Ted moment from Countdown to Infinite Crisis, if you know you know, but with the Reach. Dude, let me cook, let me cook, okay? Now, Jaime's supporting cast was already pretty well established in the movie with the Reyes family and Jenny Kord. I really like them. I think that they're great characters and there's a lot of room to go with them. However, I do think it would be really cool to incorporate some characters from the comics that we didn't get to see show up in the movie, as they are just really important to Jaime's story, and I think that the show would be better off by including them rather than excluding them. So let's get into it, dude. First and foremost, I'd add Jaime's best friends, who are notably absent from the film, Brenda and Paco. They play pretty important roles in Jaime's comics, so I think it'd be a priority of the show to have Jaime be reunited with some close friends that are his age. They also have like incredibly important plot points down the line and connections that I would like to see explored in this show. Dynastes Nitida. Xiomara and Roma were introduced in Blue Beetle Graduation Day as new Scarab hosts that find themselves all tangled up with Blue Beetle. The idea here basically being that there's multiple Scarabs that have ended up finding themselves on Earth, and Jaime was just the host to one. Xiomara was a school teacher who has now become Dynastes, and Roma is a shape-changing Nitida. If you want to learn more about them, I'd recommend watching my interviews with their creators, Josh Trujillo and Adrian Gutierrez, as they provide a lot of really great insight on both characters. Also, side note, I think it'd be really cool if Josh and Adrian got to be involved in the making of this show, as I really love the direction of their comic, and is very loosely also adapting a lot of the concepts introduced in the movie, so I think it would only be right to have them cooking in the kitchen with the rest of the creative team of this show. Please hire them. They're like actually amazing. I'm just like imagining Adrian's art like being the basis for the art style of this show, and seeing that animated, like, dude. No, it'd be done. It'd be so good, dude. I want that. I need that. Back to what I was saying about Dynastes and Nitida. In the comics, for a while, Jaime kind of leads them in like this unofficial team, and it's very Power Rangers-esque, and it's really fun. So I think that'd be a dynamic really fun to explore on the show. It'd make Jaime have to grapple with being a leader, which is something he hasn't really had the chance to do yet. So yeah, I just think that'd be really cool. I don't expect these characters to be introduced in season 1, however. I think that they would be better to be introduced down the line if they were to make multiple seasons, because I think it'd be more important to get some other stories out of the way first before introducing this plot point. The Posse. The Posse is a gang of metahumans who Jaime has constant run-ins with, and he has a very complicated relationship with them. I think the show should definitely adapt this group, because while at first they seem like potential problems for Jaime, quickly you realize why they're trapped in their circumstances, as they're metahumans being actively hunted down by shadowy government agents who want to take advantage of them. Jaime decides that even though he doesn't really get along with them, they deserve to be protected from those with power who want to use and abuse them. The way the comic handles them over the course of its original run makes some really fun recurring characters in the original comic, and I'd really love to see that revisited in the show. The Horizon. The Horizon are a race of alien refugees of the Reach who find sanctuary within Palmyra City after the events of Blue Beetle Graduation Day. I think that having Jaime having to work to protect not only metahumans, but aliens kind of epitomizes the kind of hero Blue Beetle should be. And Jaime serving as their champion is another compelling responsibility to see him struggle to balance. The villains. La Dama. While a lot of Jaime's threats revolve around metahumans and aliens, La Dama is arguably one of Jaime's most ominous threats, as she's more of a phantom within Jaime's hometown that knows and operates everything from within the shadows. While La Dama may be one of Jaime's human adversaries, where they lack in physical power, they make up for in influence, knowledge, and leverage. They also bear some pretty important personal ties to Jaime, so it'd be a pretty big missed opportunity not to include her as a threat throughout the run of the series. I'm not even keeping track anymore. Blood Scarab. Blood Scarab is a villain introduced in Jaime's latest comic run, who has a lot of potential as a villain in a future season of the show, depending on how long the series runs for. I definitely think it'd be probably too soon to adapt this storyline within the confines of the show's first season, as I think they'll prioritize resolving the Ted, Cord, and Reach invasion storyline first. But you know, maybe there could be a way to integrate these stories like together. The mystery of the identity and motivation of the Blood Scarab are both secrets I don't want to spoil in this video, so I'd recommend you read the Dawn of DC Blue Beetle comic run to learn what their deal is. But what you do need to know is that they're not only a really compelling threat to Jaime Reyes, but to Khaji-Da. And what I loved about this arc is that it forces Jaime to question his relationship to Khaji-Da. Pinnacle. Pinnacle is another new antagonist in the Blue Beetle comics that was introduced in the most recent run. This is an oversimplification, but basically, it's a rogue mecha kaiju powered by a scarab. You'd have to make some changes if Pinnacle is adapted, due to it being an invention of Victoria Cord, who we all know died at the end of the film, but I'm just saying. I need to see Blue Beetle fight a mecha kaiju. That's just something I need in animation. Like, it was awesome in the comics, and it'd be awesome in the series too. I don't care how you go about it. I need to see Blue Beetle fight a mecha kaiju. That's just like something I need in animation. It was awesome in the comics. It'd be awesome in the series too. Please, I don't care how you go about adapting Pinnacle. Make it happen. Please. Thank you. I would be very surprised if we don't have an episode of the show devoted to Jaime meeting Guy Gardner. This would work in favor of the show in a lot of ways, because not only do we have Guy Gardner cast in the DCU being played by Nathan Fillion in next year's Superman film, but he's a pretty important character to the Blue Beetle mythos overall. Guy Gardner appears in the very first issue of Jaime's solo comic, due to the Green Lantern Corps being swore enemies of the Reach. So when Guy catches a whiff of Jaime wearing Reach technology, it immediately gets them locked into a pretty vicious brawl. Guy shows up a few more times throughout the run of the book, and was also a fellow teammate of Ted Kord during the Justice League International era, so bringing him onto the show before the introduction of Ted Kord could provide Jaime some better insight into who Ted was, and maybe some clues as to how to find him, and finally give us some more context within the confines of the DCU about the Scarab Kajida. Peacemaker. So this is actually really funny. You might have thought that Guy Gardner was already a pretty big coincidence for relevant characters that are already introduced in the DCU, but this one is even more relevant. Yeah, Peacemaker actually matters a whole shit ton to Jaime Reyes' story. I think a lot of casual fans who haven't read the comics might assume that Booster Gold or Ted Kord might have been Jaime's original superhero mentor, but no, it was actually fucking Peacemaker. It's worth mentioning that Peacemaker and Blue Beetle were both Charlton characters before being acquired by DC in the 80s, so there's a lot of shared history between the sphere of influence of both characters. He's actually present for a large majority of Jaime's original run, and has a pretty important relationship to Jaime. He's a little bit more grizzled and hardened than the version of Peacemaker we've seen so far played by John Cena, but even though there are some differences between the Peacemaker in the DCU and the Peacemaker in the comics, I still think it would be really cool to have the character show up in this show, for a multi-episode arc at the very least. Traci 13. In the comics, Traci 13 is a magic-based character who also ends up developing a romantic relationship with Jaime. She's cool and a fun recurring character, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how necessary she'd be here, especially if you already have established that Jenny is gonna be Jaime's romantic interest, who I actually really like so far. Also, I just kind of prefer Traci 13 with Natasha Irons if they end up adapting her character. They're just like really cute together. So I don't know, if you like disagree, I guess come after me in the comments. I don't know. Booster Gold. Now, I wouldn't expect Booster Gold to show up in the Blue Beetle animated series before his debut in his own TV show in the DCU, but we don't really know the full timeline of release for the DCU at this point, and Booster Gold is a pretty safe bet just in general as the best friend of Ted Kord and another member of the JLI generation, which, speaking of, the JLI. I think if you want to set up some history in the DCU, I think it's very likely we might be able to see various disbanded members of an earlier incarnation of the Justice League that Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, and Guy Gardner had been on. Maxwell Lord, who we already know will be in the DCU played by Sean Gunn, was also the manager of the JLI and has really important ties to Blue Beetle. Really important ties to Blue Beetle. Other members also show up in Jaime's original run, such as Fire and Ice, so it's definitely a guess if the JLI had existed within the DCU before like the modern day we jump into in Superman and going forward. But I would debate that it's actually a pretty safe bet, given the pieces of the board that we already have set in motion. Teen Titans. Alright, stick with me here. Jaime Reyes has crossed over many times with the Teen Titans and was even a member of the team in the comics. Now, we know it's been announced that they are going to be adapting a DCU Teen Titans project, so whether or not Jaime Reyes is going to be on that team remains to be seen, but at the very least, I'd be surprised if we don't get some kind of crossover at some point, whether it be on this show, whether it be in the movie, or whatever project they're making. I'm not going to rule it out as a possibility. Anyways guys, I'm super excited about this animated series. I think going this route is honestly probably the best for Jaime's character, but I would love to see Xolo return to play the character in live action eventually, whether it be in an event film or in the Teen Titans project or in the Booster Gold show. Maybe one day he'll even get a sequel. That would make me so happy. I would love that. Before I end this video, I want to give you guys some comic recommendations so you guys can know what to read that influenced my talking points on this video. So here's my homework I'm going to be assigning you guys. I would highly recommend you guys read Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes book 1 and book 2, and then also reading Blue Beetle Graduation Day and the current Blue Beetle book that is coming out right now. If you want to do extra credit, I would recommend reading the New 52 run and the Rebirth run, and maybe even the Ted Kord 80s Blue Beetle run written by Len Wein. Anyways, that's all for me on this video. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see explored in this show. I'd also greatly appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Hopefully you guys like this. Anyways, thank you for watching.